7 levels of Flash games. Not ranked by how much time they stole from you, but ranked by how much they asked from the player, and what type of experience they gave back to you. Level 1. The Time Killer. Level 1 is about games with zero friction, no stakes and no skill required, just easy entertainment. You had 10 minutes to burn in the school library before the bell rang, and your brain needed to clock out, and that was when you needed to boot up Penguin Diner or the Shark Attack series. Draw a line, watch a guy fall off it, do it again. Pick a shark, eat some pixelated swimmers, achieve absolutely nothing. Level 1 gave you a single, mind-numbing feedback loop and zero stakes. The only reason to keep playing was the number going up. That was enough. But here is why the time killers matter. Because for the first time in history, publishing a game was as easy as uploading a file. No quality checks, no corporate gatekeepers. The digital landfill of Level 1 is what built the culture. Developers watched what people actually clicked on, what they replayed, what spread. It was an unintentional feedback system that shaped everything that came after. But in a Wild West with absolutely zero rules, it didn't take long for developers to realize a dark psychological truth. Dopamine is powerful, but rage is viral. Level 1 asked nothing of you. But what happens when a developer weaponizes that format? What happens when the code actively despises you and dares you to keep playing? Welcome to Level 2. Level 2, the Rage Machine. Level 2 games didn't invite you to play, they dared you to get involved. You didn't boot up the world's hardest game because you wanted to relax. You booted it up because the title itself was an insult to your ego, and something in your brain refused to let that stand. These games understood a psychological goldmine a decade before the rest of the internet caught on. They weaponized familiar mechanics against you. Unfair Mario and Cat Mario tempted you with cute aesthetics, only to drop the ceiling on your head. QWOP gave you 4 keys, 2 legs, and absolutely zero coordination, turning the simple act of walking into a literal cultural event where moving backwards was considered an achievement. And then there was I Wanna Be the Guy, a game built entirely on punishing your assumptions. If you touched it, you either quit in 10 minutes or lost an entire weekend. What people miss about Level 2 is this: the suffering wasn't private. The moment you slammed your desk, you became content. You became something worth watching. These developers didn't get viral because of luck. They engineered the exact camera-breaking, keyboard-throwing moments that built the entire YouTube gaming industry. PewDiePie's early career, Markiplier's first million subscribers, all of it traces back to a developer sitting alone asking one question: what is the most humiliating way I can make someone fail? But raging at a monitor alone in your bedroom has a shelf life. Eventually, suffering in silence wasn't enough. You wanted an audience. You wanted to drag your friends into the mud with you, or better yet, humiliate them in real time. The internet was about to figure out that the ultimate gaming peripheral wasn't a mouse or a keyboard, it was the person sitting right next to you. Welcome to Level 3. Level 3, the Social Object. Up until now, Flash games were an isolated experience, but Level 3 is about games that taught you teamwork. They were designed to need a second human being. A game like Fireboy and Watergirl achieved something that AAA studios with $100 million budgets still struggle to do today. Genuine couch co-op that actually required 2 people to think. Fireboy couldn't touch water. Watergirl couldn't touch fire. The levels were built around that constraint so tightly that communication was the mechanic. You couldn't carry a bad partner. You couldn't solo your way through. The game physically forced you to talk to the person sitting next to you, which made it the most socially sophisticated multiplayer experience on the internet at the time. And it was free. And it ran in a browser. And it was made by 2 people. Or look at the Impossible Quiz. Technically, it was a single-player game. In reality, it was a trap designed to humiliate you in front of an audience. It demanded a crowd. You gathered around it, passing the mouse like a talking stick, waiting to see who would fall for the absurd trick logic next. Level 3 proved that the best multiplayer experience on the internet didn't require a headset or a matchmaking lobby. It just required one screen and something worth gathering around. But Level 3 had a fatal flaw. Eventually, the bell rings, your friends leave, the occasion ends, and you close the tab. But what happens when a developer builds a game without an exit point, a game so perfectly calibrated that closing the tab feels like a personal failure? Welcome to the abyss. Welcome to Level 4. Level 4, the rabbit hole. Level 4 games made you feel more expensive with every minute you spend on the screen. It's 3 p.m., you place a monkey on a track to pop a balloon. It's 3:15 p.m., you take a customer's order and place the pepperoni perfectly. It's 4 p.m., you drill into the dirt, you sell the ore, you buy a better drill. Upgrade the monkey, bake the pizza, dig deeper. Buy the super monkey, manage the timer, dig deeper. Research the optimal tower placement on a forum. Upgrade the drill, go deeper. You finally look up from the monitor. It is pitch black outside. You have been sitting in the exact same position for 5 hours. This was the terrifying genius of Level 4. Up until now, Flash games had an exit point, but games like Bloons Tower Defense, the Papa's franchise, and Motherlode introduced the most dangerous mechanic on the internet, compounding progression. They wrapped time management inside dopamine loops so perfectly calibrated they should have required a prescription. You weren't just playing a game anymore, you were investing. The difference between Level 3 and 4 is brutal. Level 3 gave you a reason to stay for a while. Level 4 made closing the tab feel like throwing away a financial investment. It made leaving feel like a personal failure. But at least Level 4 was safe. At least you were supposed to be playing them. Level 4 hijacked your time, but the games in Level 5 hijacked the school firewall. You weren't just a player anymore, you were a digital smuggler accessing contraband that was never meant for your eyes. Welcome to Level 5. Level 5, the contraband. The games at Level 5 aren't necessarily better designed than Level 4, but they have something infinitely more valuable. They are forbidden. Your school's IT department blocked Newgrounds, and that single decision was the most catastrophic marketing mistake in internet history. Because the moment something gets blocked by an authority figure, it stops being a website. It becomes a myth, a destination, a place that clearly contains something they don't want you to see. So you problem solved. You found the proxy. You typed the URL with shaking hands like you were cracking a safe. And when you finally got through the firewall, Newgrounds didn't ease you in. It hit you like a freight train. It started with Pico's School, the game that built Newgrounds, a school shooting game with crude art, genuine personality, and zero apology. And here's what the IT department never figured out. You didn't need the internet to run it. You could download it at home, carry it on a USB drive, and run it on any school computer in the country without touching the network once. The firewall was looking in the wrong direction the entire time. Madness Combat didn't have a story, it had a body count. Stick figures moved with the kind of fluid, choreographed brutality that made you genuinely question what the developer was going through when they built it. It was ultra-violent, completely unhinged, and absolutely impossible to look away from. Happy Wheels strapped you into a wheelchair, put you at the top of a hill, and let physics do things to the human body that no rating board had ever approved. The content filters flagged it immediately, which meant every kid who found a way to load it felt like they'd broken into somewhere they shouldn't be. It was the first time most kids encountered content that existed entirely outside the permission structure of the adult world. This transgression was the entire point. Level 4 trapped you with progression. Level 5 trapped you with the oldest psychological hook in human history: forbidden fruit. But Level 6 goes one step further by disguising its true intentions. Level 6, the Trojan Horse. Level 6 games are a real idea disguised as entertainment. You thought you were playing a Flash game. You weren't. Or you were, but there was something else underneath it. An idea sharp enough that the browser window couldn't contain it. These games got past your defenses because they looked like everything else. Simple graphics, free to play, no warning label. And then they hit you somewhere real, and you didn't fully understand what happened until you were already outside the tab thinking about it. Pandemic did this quietly. You are a disease. Your goal is to kill everyone on Earth. The mechanics are about mutation rates and infection vectors and global travel patterns. It was teaching you epidemiology, and you thought you were just trying to beat a high score. People who played Pandemic in 2008 had a very specific feeling in March 2020, a recognition, like they'd run the simulation before. Stick RPG looked like a joke. Stick figure open world, get a job, go to school, build your stats. But then, buy drugs, rob people, watch your character spiral or succeed based entirely on decisions you made with no moral guidance whatsoever. It was a life simulator with zero guardrails, and it was genuinely asking you something about what you'd do with freedom if nobody was watching. Don't Look Back was 7 minutes long, a short platformer built on the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, where the mechanic itself was the myth. You could not look back. The moment you understood why, the game was already over. 7 minutes, it stayed with people for years. And then there's One Chance. 6 days to save the world. The game saves your progress and does not let you replay. Whatever ending you reach is the ending you live with. People made choices carelessly and hit endings they weren't ready for. People went back and found out the game restarted from where you left off. It caused genuine emotional responses in people sitting at school computers in 2010 who thought they were just killing time. No budget, no team, no publisher. Just an idea and the audacity to build it in Flash and put it online for free. Level 5 made you feel like a rebel. Level 6 made you feel something you didn't have a word for yet. And it did it through a browser, for free, without asking your permission. Level 7. The proof of concept. Level 6 manipulated your emotions. Level 7 manipulated the entire global market and accidentally invented industries. Everything up to this point lived and died inside of a web browser, but Level 7 games didn't accept that ceiling. They used Flash as a launchpad, broke out of the ecosystem entirely, and rewrote the financial reality of the gaming industry, not metaphorically, literally, with receipts. Meat Boy was a rough Flash prototype, crude visuals, brutal difficulty, zero budget. Edmund Macmillan uploaded it to Newgrounds in 2008, expecting nothing. What he got instead was a tidal wave of feedback so loud, so specific, and so passionate that it told him something the entire gaming industry had missed. People were desperate for precision platformers that respected their intelligence and punished their mistakes without apology. He listened, he rebuilt it from the ground up. Super Meat Boy launched on Xbox Live Arcade in 2010 and sold over 1 million copies in its first year. It didn't just succeed, it defined an entire generation of indie platformers and proved that the hardest, most uncompromising game design philosophy could build a devoted audience at commercial scale. Cannibalt was built in 72 hours for a game jam. One button, jump. That was the entire design document. Adam Saltzman put it in a browser, and within weeks, it had been played millions of times by people who couldn't explain why they kept going back. The answer was the purity of it. One mechanic executed so cleanly it felt inevitable. That browser experiment effectively invented the endless runner genre. Every Subway Surfer session, every Temple Run high score, every mobile game your parents are currently addicted to on their phone. It all traces to a straight line back to a man, a game jam, 72 hours and one button in a flash window. Crush the Castle was a physics sandbox about launching projectiles at medieval structures and watching them collapse. Satisfying, simple, mechanically airtight. A small Finnish company called Rovio had been making mobile games for 6 years with almost nothing to show for it. They saw Crush the Castle. They studied the feedback loop, the tension of the launch, the chaos of the collapse, the instant urge to try again. They rebuilt those exact mechanics, painted them with cartoon animals, wrote a story about stolen eggs, and called it Angry Birds. It launched in 2009. By 2012, it had been downloaded 2 billion times. Rovio became a billion-dollar company, and the developer who built the original prototype in Flash got a thank you that history mostly forgot to write down. This is the transaction nobody talks about. The mobile mechanics you play today, the indie studios you worship, the genres you spent $60 on. They were stress-tested on a free website by developers with zero budget, zero safety net, and no permission from anyone. Flash was the world's largest, most chaotic, most unregulated R&D department, and it didn't charge the industry a single dollar for the research. 7 levels, 1 platform, 2 decades. Flash went dark in 2020, but the games it produced didn't disappear. They became the foundation everything else was built on. The genres, the studios, the careers, the mechanics you pay $60 for today. The canvas closed, the blueprint survived. Subscribe if you're ready to uncover what Flash left behind.